Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Deratailor and I'm going to be showing you how to recreate this beautiful triangular design that you can see over here just as you saw on the thumbnail. Let's just get right into the video. I do have here my paper, and this paper is just for the sake of illustration, so that's just what we're going to be using to illustrate first, and then this is what I'm going to be recreating using my paper. So I'm going to be using my paper for better understanding of is this half triangle. This is what we are going to be recreating. This triangle you could see that we made, so that's just what we are going to be recreating. So without further delay, what I'm just going to do is, using my tape, I came up by 3.5 inch. We are going to be forming a rectangle over here. We are going to be forming a rectangle over here. So I came up by 3.5 inch all around. You could just see what I'm doing. I came all the way by 3.5 inch, and after doing that, using my tape again, I just came at the wideness area, that's the width area, by 4 inches. So remember, we went up as our length by 3.5. Now the width of it is what? 4 inches. So that's just what it is. You could see the width of it is 4 inches, the length is 3.5, and the wideness is what? 4 inches. So they are not equal. If it's equal, it's going to give you a square, but this is a rectangle, right? So you could see what we did. Using my ruler, my long ruler, I just went ahead to mark straight lines on my dotted lines, just to mark a straight line on it. Remember, the length of it is 3.5, and then the width of it is what? 4 inches. Then you could see what we formed over here. We formed a rectangular shape over here. I'm just going to go ahead to use my scissors to cut it out. We now have our pattern. As you can see, we now have our pattern. I'm going to be using it on a wrapper also. So I just placed it on my wrapper and I got the same thing. All you just have to do is to place your paper on top of the wrapper and cut out exactly the same thing. So this is what I did. I represented it. Now using my paper, I'm going to be showing you how to fold it to get your triangular shape. So the first thing we are just going to do is this area, we are going to be folding it into two. The upper part, we folded it into two. So you could just see what I did. I folded it into two equal parts. I folded the upper part into two equal parts. You could see that's the length area. I folded the length area, which was 3.5. I folded it into two equal parts. So that's just what you are also going to do on your wrapper or your fabric, whatever you are using. You just fold it into two equal parts, and then this area, you are going to fold it like a triangular form, in a triangular form. This area you can see here, you are going to fold it in a triangular form. One part of it, you will fold it in a triangular form. So just watch what I'm doing. It's not hard at all. I folded this part, and I'm also going to be folding this part also in a triangular form. So I'm just going to stop talking and just closely watch what I'm doing. After making sure that they are both equally folded, you could see what we have here. We now have our triangle. So using my marker, I'm going to be showing you where you are going to stitch. So this area, if this was a wrapper or a fabric, you are going to stitch the bottom part of it just to secure what you folded. So you are going to stitch this bottom part of it just to secure what you folded, right? You are going to stitch that bottom part that I marked. So I'm just going to do this just the same way I did on my paper illustration. So you see, I folded it into two equal parts. I then folded one part in a triangular form, half a triangle. You could see how I folded this part, and then I'm going to be folding the other part also. Basically, we are just repeating exactly what we did on our pattern, on our paper, right? Then I'm just going to go ahead to sew the bottom part. I will be sewing the bottom part just as I showed you guys with my paper. Sewing this bottom part, you can see over here. That's just what I'm going to do. And after sewing it, this is what it's looking like after I was done stitching it, you could see. So that is just the way we make our triangle. It's so simple and easy. And I just brought the paper just so that I can show you guys what we have here. And I also did a lots of it. Now for those of you wondering, how many triangles do you have to do to cover up a particular place in your dress or your sleeve or whatever? I can't exactly say how much, so long as you have that place you desire to cover, so long as it is covered to the brim, sorry, so long as you covered it to the brim. So you need as much triangles as possible, as much triangles as possible. So what I just did over here is I folded my fabric into two. This is where I'm going to be placing my triangle, and I'm just going to be cutting it as a skirt. I'm going to be cutting it as a skirt. This is just strictly for what illustration. I went ahead to mark out my body measurement for my skirt. So that's just what I did over here. I just marked out my body measurement for my skirt. It's nothing serious. If this is a dress you are going to be making, or you are going to be placing your triangles on a skirt, then that's totally fine. What I'm just doing here, you guys should not get confused. I'm just taking in my body measurement for my skirt so that I will be able to place the patterns. I'll show you how to place your patterns very correctly. Just as the picture we are trying to recreate over here, if this is going to have like a box, I came down by 3 inches, and then using my curve rule, I'm just going to connect it to my waist area. Now I'm just doing this for the sake of trying to recreate exactly what you saw on the picture, right? So after doing this, you see I connected what I came down by with my waist area, right? And then using my scissors, I'm just going to go ahead to cut it out. So that is if it has a basque. So this is depending on if yours has a basque, but if it does not have a basque, then that's totally fine. After doing this, I just went ahead to open up my skirt. So this is for illustration, so just forgive the way it's looking. I went ahead to mark the middle part of my skirt area. Now this is the front part, not the back. This is the right side, not the wrong area, because it's at the right side you're going to be placing your triangles. And then what you're just going to do is that you're going to mark where you want your design to stop, not where you want it to start, where you want it to stop, right? Where you want it to stop, and the pattern as which you want it. I wanted mine to be in a straight shape, in a straight pattern, so I just came down by 4.5. So this is totally depending on what you. So we have our triangle first. We are not going to be placing it at the top part first, no. You are going to start your placing of your triangles at the bottom part. If you place it at the front part, that is totally wrong. The top part, you're going to start placing it at this bottom part. I hope you understand what I'm saying. Do not place it at the top part. Start placing your triangles on the bottom part. If you place it at the top part, it is not going to give you what you want, right? So you're going to place it at the bottom part, and after placing it, all you just have to do is it is either you stitch it or you pin it down. But I advise you to pin it down first, so that in case of correction's sake, you might just want to remove it and place it on another side. So but what I just did here was I just pinned it down. I stitched it, and after stitching it, this is what it's looking like. But you can pin yours down. So let me just suggest that you pin it down instead of stitching it, just for correction's sake. Now this is the front part that you are placing your triangles, not the back part. So you could see what I indicated here, and you are starting from the bottom part, not the top part. If you start from the top part, it's not going to give you what you want at all. So let me just stop talking too much. Then I just went ahead to place it again, following the area that I chalked. That is going to serve as my guide. So you could see the way I am placing it first. So you could see this is the first part of our placement of the triangle. This is the first part of placing the triangles. So you could see what I'm just doing. All you just have to do is, once you place a triangle, you use your office pin to pin it down, you place a triangle, you use your office pin to pin it down. So that's just what you are going to be doing. So this is what is looking like after I was done placing my first part. Now we are going to start placing the second part together. You could see the way I placed them, making sure that they are joined together. They are both meeting each other. The ends of the triangles are meeting each other. So you could see. Now we are going to be covering these holes, these areas. You could see these areas, right? We are going to be covering those areas. We are going to be covering the area. So I then brought another one and I placed it on top of that area. Now what you are just going to do is, I just hope you understand this. What you are going to do is, you are going to be trying your best to use this triangle that you are placing at the second part to cover the first part. That's the rough edges of the first part. That's just what you are doing. What you are doing, like I said, is you are going to be using these second triangles. This second triangle you are placing on the second part to cover the first part of the triangle. I just hope you understand. That's the rough edges of the first part of the triangles. That is just what I mean. You could see that the rough edges, I'm covering them as much as possible. I hope you understand. I'm just covering the rough edges of the first part as much as possible. I went ahead to remove it again. That's the second placement of our triangle, so that you would understand. You can see the way I am covering it. What I'm just doing is I'm trying my possible best to cover the rough edges of the first part. Do you understand? I hope you understand. So that the rough edges of the first part is totally covered. Where the rough edges are is totally covered. You could see what I'm doing. So what you are just doing is, you are going to try your best to cover every single thing out. Just watch what I'm doing, the way I am placing them. You just have to make sure that the rough edges of all the triangles are what they are not showing at all. So this is just what I'm doing. You could see how we are placing it. Now we are now placing the third part of our triangle. We are placing the third part of our triangle. So just watch what I'm doing. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. What I'm just doing is, the next triangle you are going to be placing on the below one, you are just going to make sure it covers the rough edges. You are placing it on top of each other, making sure that they lap on top of each other. That's just what I'm doing. Of course, following the areas that you chalked out. You could see that I follow the shape of my bags. That was why I used these bags as an illustration instead of doing a straight part. So you could see that I'm just carefully following the area of the curved shape that I made at the waist area. You could see how covered now it is looking like. You will see how covered it is looking like right now. All I'm just doing is I'm placing it on each other, making sure that the rough edges are not showing on each other. I do not have enough triangles, that's why I'm just managing it. So that's why I said we need as much triangles as possible, right? That is why I said it. Now this is what is looking like. This is just what is looking like after I was done. I'm just going to do one side and fill it to the brim so that you can understand what I am doing. We are going to be filling one part of it just so that you would still understand, have a clearer understanding. Now you can see that I made a division at the waist area. You could see that's where I started placing my triangles from. Why I did this is just so that I would have a better knowledge of what I'm doing. So it's better for me to know the half part of what I'm doing and the other half part of what I'm doing. So if you don't want to divide your own, then that's fine. It is totally optional. It's still going to give you the same result, right? But then I just advise you do the same. And that is why I said that you don't stitch when you place one triangle. When you just place a triangle, you just pin it down. Place a triangle, you pin it down. Place a triangle, pin it down. Why is because of, for the sake of what's correction. Then after you are done placing everything, you can just go ahead to take it to your machine and stitch it, right? But if you stitch it and if there is any need for like a correction or something like that, then that will be really difficult. You have to start losing, right? You have to start losing, and we don't want that. So I advise you just pin it down. Once you place a triangle, you just keep pinning it down. Then when you are done, all you just have to do is to take it to your machine and stitch it when you're particularly sure that it has already given you what you want. So you can just see the way I am filling everything to the brim triangle. Like I said before, make sure you start placing your triangle from the bottom part to the top, from the bottom part to the top. Now this bottom part is totally optional. Mine, I used a straight line to follow as my pattern. You can make your own line to be curved. It is totally optional to you guys. So make sure you start from the bottom to the waist area, not from the waist to the bottom part. Start placing from the bottom part. You guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and if indeed you learned something from this tutorial, do not forget to like and to subscribe, and also make sure you share this video to someone that you know is going to learn something from this. See you guys on my next tutorial.